And lastly, we will finish up with Melbourne and Perth, who, as I mentioned earlier, are just sitting back at the moment, watching and waiting to see who their opponents are going to be in the playoff series. They have been outstanding all season long, Melbourne United. They've been the benchmark to follow, and in the eyes of many, they are the team to beat. And the Perth Wildcats, what an incredible story and what an incredible turnaround it's been from where they were at the start of the season. The coach of Melbourne United, Dean Vickerman, and one of their stars, an all-NBL first teamer, Chris Goulding, to join us on stage. Gentlemen, if you could, please. And also from the Perth Wildcats, John Rillie, one of the leading contenders for the Coach of the Year. And last night, Bryce Cotton was crowned MVP for the fourth time. It takes him to outright second on the list. And John and Bryce are with us this morning as well. Gentlemen.
I have the same question for both coaches. I'll start with you, Dean. Not knowing who your opponent's going to be going into this break, I assume there are some things within that you sort of want to work on. What are those things that you want to refine over this little stretch until you know who your opponent is and you can scout them?
Yeah, there's a little bit of the what ifs. You know, what are some of the counters that we maybe not have spent enough time preparing on, and special situations. You know, if there was any type of injury, different types of lineups. I think we'll spend a little bit of time on that, but you know, the core of who we are is about the physicality, the connection, and you know, how many sessions can we get in that type of extreme load that, you know, at times can have a risk of some heavy contact. And so I think that's the biggest one for us. Our guys really want to build up and make sure that, you know, we're going to play teams that have played 2 games. So how do we replicate that? How do we prepare ourselves for that? But as you've seen through the season, whenever we've had a little bit of a poor performance, we've really bounced back. So coming off this one, this little break, it's like we've actually got to feel that little bounce back, you know, right from the get-go, and make sure mentally there's a switch there that our intensity is at a crazy level to go ahead and start this playoff series.
Dean, can you talk a little bit about, go right back to the start and putting this roster together? And I guess you've won Coach of the Year, obviously because of record, but also how you've been able to sort of mesh so much talent together.
Yeah, I spoke about it a little bit last night. You know, trying to find culture fit. It was really important, and we spent a lot of time in interviews and then talking to opposition coaches. You know, just going into much more depth with the people that we recruited this year. We've got a few rookies in there, you know, coming out of college, and Ian Clark was a little bit of a different one. It was hard to find anyone in the world to say a bad word about him. But yeah, there was that one. And then it was obviously, you know, we didn't win games without Shaylee last year. And so, you know, how could we have enough coverage? And, you know, person that I didn't speak about last night was Rob Lowe. You know, to say we got JLA out for the first 6 games, and, you know, do you find an import for that? Do you know, find a local talent? And we found a retired guy that was a hell of a player, and you know, set us up for the season when we go 6-1 in the first 7, and you know, he was massive for us. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. You know, when we had injuries in the middle of the year, you know, Chris was phenomenal. You know, really kept that thing together in that middle stretch, and then we've seen different people have different moments throughout the year. You know, Delhi's playing at a really high level right now. We've seen Ariel, you know, really step up his game as well. And so, you know, the depth that we've put together, they were able to win games throughout the year, and now we've just got to lock into the role that we need them for this finals.
CG, you're coming off the World Cup. It's, I guess, a lot of guys came in late, but it seems to have been intense from the start. The practices, it's just been hardcore, one goal. Talk about your motivation this season and how important it is to win the championship.
I think, like every year, there's a reason we play. A couple of guys have touched on it before, just sitting here listening to these press conferences. The individual awards are nice and cherry on top or whatever it may be, but there's one real reason why we're here, and that is to win a championship. And these two teams are sitting up here because we've put ourselves in a good position to go and try and do that. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. A whole new season starts now, and I think just getting, as Dean touched on, some rookies, some veterans together in one environment where there is one goal and it's winning, and trainings are competitive, sometimes a little too competitive if I think back to a couple. That's what is fun, and that's the type of group you want to be around. Gives you the best chance moving forward.
Chris, you've climbed this mountain before with Melbourne. Do you get any similar vibes with the team you've got this year to the previous championships?
Yeah, you wrestle with that in your head. You try and link some things together to give yourself peace of mind at night. And then you also look back to times when you haven't been as successful, and you try and see some things that you want to try and stamp out. So yeah, yes and no. I think when we're playing our best basketball, we're going to be really tough to beat. It's just a matter of how consistently and how often we can bring that out.
It's a pretty unique collection of talent that you've been able to bring together for this season. Do you feel like you should dig deep to try and take advantage of this and capitalise when you've got such a talented group together?
We're digging. Yeah, I mean, especially now going forward these next however many weeks, I think we're really going to see a mindset shift in the group that, there's no, all right, we'll back up 2 days later if we lose this game or whatever it is. Backs are against the wall now, whether we like it or not, and I think that's an environment that we're going to flourish in.
Bryce, congratulations on the MVP award. It's been so clear with all the players up here today talking about, and Chris just mentioned.
I guess you've been able to manage guys' minutes probably more than most other sides, sort of how you've gone throughout the year. Do you think that holds advantage for you going forward as the players progress? And has that been having one eye on the finals, or is it just sort of the depth you've had that sort of spread it around and give guys minutes like Flynn Cameron and the like that have been put into work?
Yeah, I don't know if I see it as an advantage or I think, when it comes to big games, and we saw, the other day against Illawarra, Chris played 33, and I'm sure there's going to be, games within the playoff series that, are dictated by refereeing and are dictated by form or whatever. But we've got to trust in, this group that people can come off the bench and do a role that's, kind of more than they probably average throughout the year, because they've had moments like a Flynn Cameron played a whole fourth quarter, throughout the year and got a win doing it. And so, there's guys there, Cole Bowen, other guys that can, really step up off our bench. Ariel's been, fantastic. And so, Ian Clark could step into a starting, whatever needs to happen. We've got guys there that can go ahead and step up, and everyone kind of talks about, you guys are so talented, and we didn't build this team as the most talented roster. There's other guys, other teams in the league. You say, wow, they've got way more talent, athletically than us. We built this team on high IQ, great culture guys, guys that, are committed to the defensive end and really want to win.
Dean, on the back of that, what are the differences in coaching a team that is very local heavy, which is what you guys are, versus one that has a bunch of imports on it? Are there distinct advantages that you think you guys might have that other teams might not because you're so local heavy?
Yeah, and when we kind of put this team together, it was like, let's more a national team kind of program, more a EuroLeague kind of team where we're not going to have guys play 35 minutes. We do want to make sure that we're using 10 guys, every game. But, you look at it and you say, well, it's a little bit like the old school NBL. We've got an elite guard in Ian Clark, and we've got a centre in Ariel Huckporty. We see those as our two imports, and that's been a successful recipe for a lot of years about, the guys that you bring into your program. But, there's, with the Kiwis, with the Aussies, there's this connection, that they have to each other, that when, big moments come, that they really trust each other to do the right thing, and, combined with the other guys that I spoke about. So, they love the chemistry of our group, and hopefully that can help us in big moments.
Same question to you, Chris. You've been in the league a long time. You haven't had a 3-week break in between the last regular season game and the finals. How do you go into that? And as a leader of this team, how do you lead the team through that 3 weeks?
I think we'll put a lot of trust in the staff, high performance staff, coaches, and trust in them to tell us what are the days that we're going to need to compete and get after it. What are the days maybe a little bit more individual focused. And I think, as Bryce said, making sure, excuse me, you got that balance of knowing you've got your work in and not overcooking it too much. Just making sure that we're ready to roll whenever or whoever we play against comes to town.
Chris, you and Bryce are both guys that have proven in the biggest of games. What is it that you like about playing in the finals?
I don't know. I guess growing up, you remember moments, right? You remember watching MJ, Scotty in big moments, and for the most part, they're in finals. I remember sitting on the couch with my dad Wednesdays and Saturdays watching NBL. I remember watching finals and big moments. I guess it's ingrained in you, what you remember growing up as a kid. So if you are ever lucky enough to have that opportunity, you want to grab it. So, I don't necessarily, I'm not like, oh, now it's a final, let's do something crazy. There's a desire to win in big games and in playoffs and in finals, and to win for your teammates and your club. And we've got a lot of guys on our team that have that desire. So I'm looking forward to getting it started. The 3 weeks is interesting, but we got a lot of old guys on our team. So maybe the 3 weeks will be good for us.
Thought the loose units might get a mention at some stage. Well done to Perth, well done to Melbourne, finishing first and second respectively. You get the chance to sit back and watch it all unfold, and thanks for being here with us this morning. We appreciate your time.